Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. So Liverpool are taking on Leicester City on Tuesday night in the third round of the Carabao Cup. And I think it's safe to say that we're not that excited for the game, let's be honest, because the League Cup, or the Carabao Cup as it is now horribly called, is pretty much Liverpool's absolute bottom priority this season. I mean, when you look at all the competitions and all the fronts that Liverpool are fighting on, you've got the Premier League, which obviously we want Liverpool to do very well in. We want us to build on the top four finish we got last season and cement our place in those Champions League spots. And with teams performing to the levels that Man United and Man City are performing to at the moment, Liverpool are going to have to throw all they've got at the Premier League this season if they want to still be in and around that conversation at the very top of the table. You've also got the Champions League campaign, which has, of course, already kicked off with the group stages. We want to see Liverpool do well in that because we haven't seen a proper Champions League campaign from Liverpool for a very long time now. Obviously, the last time we were in it, we didn't really do ourselves justice and we came third in our group. So I think quarterfinals is really where we want to get to. Personally, I think that would represent a good season in Europe for Liverpool if they got to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And we saw against Sevilla, it's not easy to do well in the Champions League. So again, Liverpool are going to have to throw everything they possibly can at that competition as well. And then you've also got the FA Cup coming along later on in the season. And personally, obviously, we want to see Liverpool win a trophy this season. I think it's very important that we do that. We want to win a trophy as soon as we possibly can. And we've also got this little duck under Jurgen Klopp at the moment with finals and everything. He doesn't have a great record in cup finals in recent years. So there's kind of a hoodoo that we want to break there. And personally, I'd rather see that done in the FA Cup than the League Cup. Because while the League Cup, it is only 6 games. You win 6 games, you win the tournament. And most other teams don't really take the competition that seriously until the latter stages of it. So it does represent a fairly easy shot at a trophy. But to be honest, I'm kind of bored of the League Cup now. I mean, we've got to the semi-finals for the last 3 years in a row now. And yes, we didn't win it any of those times, but it is kind of becoming, you know, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, bit bored of the League Cup now. And we haven't really seen Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool actually go for the FA Cup since Jurgen Klopp arrived. So I think it will be quite exciting to see what happens when Jurgen Klopp actually has a go at trying to win the FA Cup. And I think if Liverpool do devote enough resources to that, and say if we do get knocked out of the Champions League in about the quarterfinal stage, then I think we've got every chance of winning silverware there. So I think this tournament is absolutely the bottom priority for Liverpool during this season, and I think that is going to be reflected in the way that the team line up. We've already had a bit of team news from Jurgen Klopp in his press conference before the game. He confirmed that Danny Ward was going to start, which I think we all kind of expected, because obviously at the moment all the conversation seems to be about Mignolet and Loris Karius and who's the number one there. But whenever Klopp talks about his goalkeepers, he always mentions Ward as well. He always says Simon's the number one, he's the Premier League goalkeeper, but we have got 2 other goalkeepers in Karius and Ward who are always putting in a very good effort on the training ground. So I think it will be interesting to see how Danny Ward gets on, because obviously he had a very good time at Huddersfield last year, helped them get promoted, had some penalty saving heroics in the playoffs. He also played all right in pre-season with the very small amount that we saw him in the Audi Cup against Atletico Madrid. Had a decent performance there, and I think if he does show himself to be good enough, he's got every chance of putting himself in and around that conversation to be Liverpool's top keeper. So it'd be very interesting to see how Danny Ward gets on. The other 2 players confirmed to start are Marco Grujic and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Again, no surprises there. I think we expected both of them to start, really. Oxlade-Chamberlain obviously hasn't quite found his feet at Liverpool, and I think this is the kind of game that will probably help him to get a little bit of rhythm going, because it's got a bit less pressure on it. It should hopefully be a little less high tempo than some of the games that he's been introduced as a substitute so far. And if he does start the match, he's got a little bit more time to settle in, find his rhythm, and hopefully he'll show a bit more of what he's about and a bit more of why Liverpool paid £40 million to sign him. Also exciting to see Marco Grujic as well, because obviously when he signed last year and we saw him in pre-season, he looked absolutely fantastic. He looked incredible. He looked like he had it all. He looked like a Serbian Gerrard kind of footballer. But at the end of the day, the season didn't really get going for him. Obviously, we kind of accepted that he wasn't going to be a breakout star in the first team last season, because it was going to take him a little bit of time to get used to Klopp's methods and everything. So he was in the under-23s, and then he had this injury that kept him out for a while, and he never really hit the ground running. He missed a lot of the opportunities that might have been offered to him if he hadn't got injured, to make a little bit of headway into getting into the first team. So I think we're all hoping that this is the season where Marco Grujic will really start to show what he's about, playing competitive football for Liverpool first team. So a big game for him as well. As for the rest of the starting 11, like I said, obviously it's Danny Ward in goal. I think the centre-back pairing is going to be Ranier Klavan and Joe Gomez, simply because, like I said, this competition, priority-wise, is the lowest of the low for Liverpool. So I think you basically don't start any players that are going to start in the game against Leicester in the league at the weekend. And I think we'll probably go with Lovren and Matip at centre-back at the weekend. And I think we'll probably also go with Alexander-Arnold away to Leicester in the league, because you might want to save Joe Gomez for some of the tougher games coming up, like Newcastle away. So I think Alexander-Arnold will play in the league, and then Joe Gomez will play at centre-back in this game, which I think will be very interesting. I'm pretty excited to see how Joe Gomez gets on, because Liverpool do have a problem with their centre-backs at the moment. There's no hiding that fact. And with the transfer window so far away at the moment, and those problems showing no signs of going away, there's every chance that Liverpool will have to maybe have a go and try Joe Gomez at centre-back, because we know that's his preferred position, really. We've played him at right-back so far this season. We played him at left-back when he first arrived, but his long-term future is at centre-back, and I think that is certainly where Klopp sees him playing for Liverpool in the long term, in the future. So I think Joe Gomez might get tried out at centre-back in this game, and we'll see how it goes. As for the right-back, I think it's going to be John Flanagan. Bit of a forgotten man at Liverpool at the moment, John Flanagan. I think he's starting to become a bit of a Conor Randall figure, in that Conor Randall, he was there, he helped out when he was needed. Whenever you thought we need a right back, we want to rest all the other guys. Oh, look, we've got John Flanagan there. Same as we were like, oh, we've got Conor Randall there. Let's just throw him in for one game where he can help out. And to be honest, I don't really see a massive future for John Flanagan at Liverpool. I think he'll probably get moved on in January or the summer. He doesn't really seem to fit Jurgen Klopp's style that well, so I think he will get moved on. And this is just one of those games where we need someone to fill in at right back, and John Flanagan hopefully will help us out and do the job. But you never know, maybe he could do an Alberto Moreno and turn his Liverpool career on its head, and we'd all be singing his praises. But I think it would take an awful lot for that to happen for John Flanagan. And then at left back, I think it's going to be Andrew Robertson, simply because as good as Robertson is, I think Moreno at the moment is the #1 left back, simply because he has a bit more experience at Liverpool, a bit more experience playing under Jurgen Klopp as well. So whenever it comes to the big games, Klopp seems to prefer Alberto Moreno over Robertson, even though Robertson may be the long-term solution at left back. So I think Robertson starts in this game, because at the moment he is a bit of a backup at left back. As for the midfield, obviously, like I said, Grujic and Oxlade-Chamberlain will be starting, which means for me, I think it will probably be Milner in that #6 role. I think I toyed ever so slightly with the idea of it being Wijnaldum, because he didn't play at the weekend and James Milner did, and like I said, Liverpool are going to be resting a lot of players for this game. But I think if you have Marco Grujic and Oxlade-Chamberlain in the midfield, you need someone like Milner who's going to sit back and play that #6 role a little bit like Jordan Henderson tends to do, because there's an argument that maybe Grujic could do that. Obviously, he's quite strong, he's a good tackler, even though he's got maybe a little bit too much needle for that kind of role. We know he's got a bit of a bastard in him, but I think Grujic is simply better playing that box-to-box role, charging forward, because like, we know that he's also got goals in him, he's got assists in him, he's pretty good at that end of the pitch. He arrives late in the box as well, kind of in Lallana style, and that's how he gets a lot of his goals. So I think Grujic, you want him to be freed up and being able to roam up and down the pitch and really show us what he's all about. And I think for that, you need someone like Milner sitting in that #6 role. And then the front three, I think it's probably going to be Woodburn on one side, Sturridge on the other, and then Solanke through the middle, because there's an argument that maybe you could have Ings in there and rest Sturridge, because with Mane out at the moment, Sturridge seems to be Klopp's preferred replacement in the front three for now, while Sadio Mane is missing. But I think Liverpool just need that tiny bit of extra quality, and Daniel Sturridge hasn't had that great a start to the season so far, so this game could help him kick on with that. Like I said, it's always possible that Ings could play there. Ings could also fill in for Woodburn there, but I think this game will be a great opportunity for Ben Woodburn, because we really want to see him at the moment as Liverpool fans, because we saw him in pre-season, he looked very good, he was playing in that more withdrawn role in a kind of mini Coutinho kind of thing, and that worked very well for him. He's played for Wales as well this season, making 2 substitute appearances where I think he was man of the match in both the games. He helped Wales to 6 points out of a possible 6 in their World Cup qualifying campaign during that international break, so he played very well in those as well. And I think we're just dying to see what Ben Woodburn can do in a Liverpool shirt in competitive matches, and kind of the same with Oxlade-Chamberlain. This is the perfect kind of game to give him a little bit more space, take the pressure off a little bit, and see what he is about playing in those competitive situations. So very exciting to see how Ben Woodburn is going to get on, and that's one of the reasons that I do kind of like the League Cup. While it can be a bit boring because no one really cares about it, certainly not until maybe the semi-final stage or something like that, which sadly tends to be whenever Liverpool get knocked out of the competition during the semi-finals. But I think it is quite nice to see all those fringe players who you know are good. You know, we know that Dom Solanke is good. We all want to see a bit more of players like Dom Solanke as well, but they just don't necessarily get their chance in the big matches because they're not quite ready for it yet. So that is kind of why I like the League Cup. I mean, it gave Ben Woodburn his first Liverpool goal and helped him to become Liverpool's youngest ever goal scorer. It helped Alexander-Arnold to become the breakout star that he is at Liverpool now. So I think the League Cup, simply because of that, can be quite useful every now and then for helping you find out which of your fringe players are actually good enough to play for Liverpool. So like I said, while it isn't the most exciting prospect in the world playing Leicester away in the League Cup, it's still always nice to watch Liverpool play, and you never want to lose a football match no matter what the circumstances are. So hopefully Liverpool can get the win in the match, and here are my 3 reasons why I think we will get it. First of all, I think Liverpool's squad depth is simply better than Leicester's at the moment, and while there's a potential argument that maybe Craig Shakespeare could look at where Leicester are at the moment and think, you know, maybe we have got time to go for a trophy this season, because that would be quite nice. And I think that's what tends to happen with the League Cup, is a lot of those mid-table teams who are maybe a little bit safe in the Premier League but haven't got much of a chance of challenging at the higher end of the table will look at the League Cup and say it's actually a fairly decent opportunity at silverware. So there's always the possibility that Leicester could look at that and say, actually, we will go strong for this game. But I think Craig Shakespeare, he's not stupid. He knows that any team in the Premier League, no matter where you are in the league really, there's always the outside chance that you could get relegated. And I think his priority at the moment will simply be making sure that Leicester stay safe in the Premier League. And if they are to go for a trophy, I think they might look at the FA Cup later on in the season when they're feeling a bit more secure before they start thinking about silverware. So I think he will rest a lot of players as well for this game. And if you look at Liverpool and Leicester's squads, Liverpool's squad has been built to fight on all fronts, whereas Leicester's squad has probably been built to have a strong starting 11, a few more players to come in the case of injury, and I think that is probably about it. And they did sell a few players over the summer as well. So I think Leicester will rest a lot of players, and that will probably show the difference in squad depth between the two sides, and I think that will help give Liverpool an edge in this time. And secondly, I mentioned him before, Daniel Sturridge I think will be the difference in this game, because if you do look at the players that the two teams are going to put out on the pitch, you can easily pick out Daniel Sturridge and say he is by far and away the highest quality player on the pitch. He's having a bit of a difficult struggle with form at the moment. I don't think he's quite found his feet at Liverpool so far this season. But I mean, at the end of last season, he looked very good. He looked all right in pre-season as well. So I think there's every chance that Daniel Sturridge could put in a decent shift for Liverpool this campaign. And last season, when he wasn't doing too well at the start, the League Cup provided a very good platform for Daniel Sturridge to find a little bit of form, get a few goals and get back into his groove. So I think that might be one of the reasons that Jurgen Klopp will start him in this game, to help him get into form a little bit more. And I think if he does, then Daniel Sturridge could be the difference for Liverpool. And finally, I think the fringe players who will be playing in this game, who maybe don't get their opportunities in the Premier League or the Champions League, in the higher brow games that Liverpool play, I think they'll be more fired up for this game because of that. Because like I said, we saw last season what the League Cup could do for Liverpool's fringe players and how it helped them to elevate themselves to becoming a proper first team contender. A lot of those players like Grujic, maybe even Oxlade-Chamberlain as well, Dom Solanke, Ben Woodburn and even John Flanagan will be looking at this time thinking, this is my opportunity to show to Jurgen Klopp that I am good enough, to show to him that I've got what it takes to play first team football at the very top level for Liverpool. So they will all be fired up for this game, I think. I think that's what helped Liverpool last season and helped them to get to the semi-final, even though it wasn't until the semi-final stage that we actually started playing our first teamers, was the fact that those young players and those fringe players who weren't getting their chance at Liverpool were fired up and ready to show Jurgen Klopp what they were all about. So I think that amount of passion that I think they'll put into their performances should hopefully help Liverpool win. So that is all for today's video. Thank you very, very much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with the post-match content after the game against Leicester in the League Cup. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll see you in a bit for the post-match video after the Leicester game. Bye for now.